Let's see, going live now. Hello, world. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I am super excited to welcome you back to another episode of Innovation Unscripted. My name is Monica Kang. I'm the founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox and also your host for this show. Today, we have a special treat. In the past 2 months, we got to celebrate what it means to be Asian American innovators, also what it means to be an innovator as a parent. And today we are celebrating what it means to be an innovator as young and as a student. I got a chance to meet them already past week, and we had such an insightful conversation. And I know you have a ton of questions and insights as well. And so with that being said, to get started for unscripted conversations to untangle what it means to be innovative, let's get around and check in where our innovators are. Do we have our innovators here?
Yes, we do. Hi, my name is Candy, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I recently graduated with my master's from Florida State University in Arts Administration, and I am currently rethinking how arts and culture impact the community.
Hi, my name is Joshua Gao. I'm from New Hampshire. I'm a sophomore in high school at National High School South, and right now I'm rethinking fire suppression with the invention of a sound wave fire extinguisher.
My name is Megan Jones. I'm from Indiana. I'm going to be a freshman at Ball State University, and I'm rethinking medical devices today.
Hi, my name is Abigail Haluska, and I'm also from Indiana. I'll be a freshman at Purdue University this fall, and I'm also rethinking medical devices to help alleviate body pain.
My name is Samson McCune. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm a rising junior at Albemarle High School. I'm rethinking marketing with CGI techniques.
Hi everyone, my name is Mia. I'm from Northern Virginia and I'm an incoming freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. And I'm currently rethinking the intersections of medicine, social entrepreneurship, and business.
Hi, my name is Saren and I just recently got my master's at Berklee College of Music, and I am rethinking second generation Asian representation in mainstream music and entertainment.
Hi, my name is Bo James Huang. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a student at the University of California, Los Angeles Extension. I'm rethinking creativity in public health research.
Hi, my name is Arasha Lalani. I'm currently in my hometown of San Antonio, Texas, but I'm a rising senior at Emerson College, and I'm rethinking mindfulness and representation in the media.
Hi, my name is Sam Greenberg. I'm currently in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm a rising junior at Nashua High School South, and along with Joshua, I'm also rethinking fire suppression. I helped him create the sound wave fire extinguisher.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm a incoming first year at Yale University, and I am rethinking computer science and the learning opportunities we can create for others.
Thank you all very much. We are super excited. As you just heard, we have an amazing list of innovators who are excited to share about what it means to innovate. And so I'm going to invite them all back. You see us, everyone in the screen. Let's give us a wave so that they can all see us. We are super excited you are here. So to get us started, I'm going to ask our innovators a set of questions. But again, for those who are joining us live, you are part of the show. Ask us questions. I want to hear what you have to say and ask them about how they are innovating, because we are excited you are here. So we have 7+ of you already joining us in. Welcome and excited to have. Yes, Jennifer, great to see that you're tuning in for Charlottesville. Love the support. And with that, let me ask my first question. So do you all have your pen and paper with you by chance, everyone? Okay, perfect. I want you to do me a quick favor and sketch me, when was the last time you took the courage to innovate something that other people said that was impossible? Take a moment to sketch what that moment was and what that looked like. And I'm curious to see what we learn. So while we do that, hello from Caitlin from Berlin. Glad you are here. For those who are joining us live, again, take a moment if you want to sketch your thoughts on when was the last time you innovated something with courage, because even other people didn't believe or didn't really align. So they're taking a moment to share their thoughts and sketch, and would love to hear what we find out. Okay, so can't wait to see what we're about to learn. When I say 3, I want to take a moment and ask if you can put your piece of paper on the screen so that we can see. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Can you put your piece of paper up high? But we want to make sure we see your face with it. So show your face and your image is perfect. Love it, love it. I would love to call out a few folks to hear what they have and what that means. So Sarah, I would love to start with you. Tell me a little bit more what that is. And after that, maybe we can hear from Bo as well. Please make sure to unmute. Yes.
Yeah, so this idea I was creating during like a club meeting. So I like pitched it, and in the photo, like this is me. And then there are people all around me in this ring of tables who are talking and being like, oh, this idea is not going to work. It's way too outlandish. We don't have like the funds for this or things like that. But I kind of like continually pitched it and reformed my idea to fit like the restrictions that were put based on like funding, money, that kind of thing. And this was like kind of the moment where I first brought up the idea and people were kind of like showing their agreement and also disagreements with it.
Yes, for me, I wrote the FLY conference, which is like the National First Generation and Low Income Student Conference that was hosted at Stanford University. I felt like it was one of the big innovation because I went to undergrad and I mainly funded through scholarships from private scholarships. So that's what I do. I teach other students of color and first-gen students how to like craft their scholarship essays. So I thought it was a big move because I'm from Los Angeles and going all the way to Palo Alto and just sharing my story and meeting other first-gen students.
Thank you both for sharing that, which gives us a reminder of how it happens at any point, but the key is what we do with it. Sam, I would be curious to hear your point. You know, you and Joshua are working it, but Sam, specifically from your point of view, what would you say really helped you, gave the courage to, you know, not only do the business that you guys are doing, but really gave you the courage to know that it was okay, even if other people had different opinions about that, especially as an entrepreneur?
Sorry in advance, my dog is barking, so if you guys hear that. But I guess what just gave me the confidence is just knowing that I had other people, you know, like me who were working on it. At the time, Joshua and I were working on a 4-person team on it. So I was really comfortable knowing that some of my friends were going to be on the same path. You know, we're all in the same boat. So that helped me.
So finding people of alignment, and you know, Megan and Abigail, I'm sure that's probably a similar journey. Tell me a little bit more what inspired you to build your business and what that meant for you and how you found clarity.
Yeah, so over the summer, Megan and I met together and we really wanted to work on a project, and we observed that there's a ton of people in our in our community with arthritis. And I think that the abundance of technology out there, but at the same time, the abundance of people struggling out there is what really inspired us to want to make something that can kind of alleviate the struggles of other people.
And some of our focuses were to make it affordable because a lot of like teachers and family members, we witnessed that they didn't have enough money to purchase products on the market. So that was also a huge impact on our device as well.
So being able to think through that. Sharon, I feel like from your perspective as somebody in music and also having to navigate that, it's one thing to innovate and have courage, but there's still a lot of other people who seems to be doing similar things. How do you still find your voice, your uniqueness into that?
Yeah, for sure. I think I like to think of myself as the bridge of bridging two collaborators in one unique space of creativity, and hearing how all these innovators, it seems like all of our goal is to be that bridge. So through music, my biggest hope is to collaborate between people who are well represented in the industry with those who are not yet represented. And so let's keep on right.
Being a bridge builder, which is part of the thing that intrigues us, right? Because we're always connecting dots in different ways, which, you know, Samson, I know that's something that you think about when you help business owners and help them in the marketing side, as well as helping them see things they haven't thought about. But I'm sure the first time there's probably people like, well, I'm not really sure if I understand that theory, or like, I don't agree with your thoughts. Like, how do you help your clientele and the people that you work with to see the perspective?
it's a lot of persuasion, I guess, and you're going to get a lot of no's, but it ultimately comes down to you have to be able to explain to them in a way that they would understand, because a lot of this younger stuff seems like all this mumbo jumbo that older people don't understand. But it's a lot of, you have to find a way to connect with them personally before you can connect with them financially and like become a client. That's the best way I can phrase it.
Personal and making it relatable plays a huge role. Candy, I know that's something you think a lot about in the intersection of the work you do. Tell me a little bit more how you find the courage to find dots when others don't see in the intersection of the work you do.
So a lot of the work that I do within arts and culture is kind of figuring out how arts organizations, how artists, how educators and businesses really make an impact in their own communities. And that is something that I want to highlight and I want to be a service to. And so in my mission, I try to basically not only build those bridges, but kind of keep it going, keep them strong, and keep artists and educators well connected within their community, because a lot of the support that they get are from the community members within their own town.
And Mia, I'm curious to hear your thoughts to build on that. You know, honestly, sometimes our first effort doesn't work out. So how do we make sure we have the courage to not let failure or mistakes get in the way? What has helped you continue to innovate?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think failure is something that you necessarily ever get comfortable with, but it's something that everyone kind of has to deal with and experience. And it definitely, getting over the obstacle, I think, comes with remembering like why you originally sought out to do things. So for example, like with entrepreneurship, a lot of the reason why I really like it is because it's a way for me to tackle everyday problems that I perceive. And so remembering like my purpose for that really helps me keep going, I guess. And then also really having a strong community, not only like fellow entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that I've met at like summits, et cetera, but also just having a strong network of people to support me, like my parents, friends, et cetera, that I can just really lean on if times get tough.
Such a great reminder that it's all the nuts and bolts that build on. And Joshua, I know you think a lot about this, and especially, I mean, with you and Sam having to pivot even the valleys that you had to offer. Tell me a little bit more about that journey and what were some of the key insights that helped you iterate, especially during COVID-19?
I think it's been a really big challenge, especially for Sam and I feel like, in terms of just like pushing forwards, because like the thing that we're trying to tackle is a bit crazy, like, to be honest. So like DARPA researched it, right? Like a few years ago, they dropped it. Like it's just been like a pretty crazy area in science, and really what has kept us going is just like Sam said, that ring of support you build around you. Like our core team is like a pretty motivated team, I would say. Sam, you're awesome. So I think really it's just like each other that keeps us going, and yeah, I really, that's probably one of the biggest factors.
And I know because Sam do have to leave shortly, Sam, I'm curious to check back in with you. What's something that you really wish innovators out there, no matter what the age, remembered and thought about as they continue to innovate, especially during this time in COVID?
Definitely something Mia touched on in terms of like making mistakes. It's like mistakes are only mistakes if you don't learn from them. I really believe in that quote. It's like you really can't be afraid to fail, because failure kind of builds experience, I guess. So you can't really have experience in entrepreneurship without failing. So I would just say, don't be afraid to fail, because if you're young, you have a lot of time.
Thank you for sharing that, Sam. And, you know, we'll send positivity. I know we'll get to hear your story more in the one-on-one interviews later on. So thank you very much. Rasha, I know we haven't got a chance to check in with you yet, but one of the things I'll be curious to hear from your side is you got very passionate about public speaking, but also about the whole space of rethinking about entertainment and TV, and even created your whole course with that. So tell me a little bit more, because I'm sure there were people who opposed that as well. What helped you find the courage to do so, and you know, why do so?
Absolutely, yeah, and that is for sure a challenge, to try and create something new, especially among stuff that is already established. And to what I'm referring to is that major that I created. So I call it television, personality, and performance. And so what I do is I'm drawing from these different courses that are offered at my school for both broadcast journalism and performing arts. Definitely an unconventional approach. But the reason for that is because I think that once you know exactly what you're trying to do, then you know how to get there. You have to kind of lay out your goals, set your intentions, and be mindful about that approach. And then I think if anybody is imposing, or if anybody says, you know, that doesn't work because of this, you kind of are already 2 steps ahead and you think, well, I challenge you with this. So I think you got to backtrack a little bit and know what you want. And then you can lay out the kind of outline to go for it.
Thank you for sharing that, which, you know, one word that we often use a lot in InnovatorsBox is the importance of self-awareness. Right? As they have all shared, you know, unless we have self-awareness, we won't know what we want to innovate, why we want to innovate, what inspires us, why we like to create, why do we do the hard work, because it's crazy hard. And as all of them shared, in that process, there's going to be failures and mistakes, but might as well do something that really ignites you and that you get inspired. And so another thing that I asked our innovators here to bring is bring a random object that they had to rethink about your careers. And so if you have that with you right now, I'm going to say by 3, I want you to put it up on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, can you put it up on the screen? Take a moment and share what that random object is. And I would love to learn a little bit more. Thank you very much. What that means, and celebrating those different journeys, because as you already noticed, we all come from different fields, different interests, and that's kind of the fun of it, right? I mean, if I invited everyone from the same industry, it's kind of, I mean, that's in itself cool, but not as exciting. So I'm curious, you know, I'd love to start, Sarah, with you on your side with music. Like, what are some of the changes that you're seeing that you're now super excited about as a young innovator that you wish other people understood?
So thanks to Billie Eilish and Phineas, bedroom recording is officialized. And as a young innovator right now, especially in times of, you know, COVID and global pandemic, we get to create. This is a time for creatives to just dive into their craft. And thankfully, I have a studio here, so I've been using this thing over here to voice the things that I haven't really gotten to process. And I think this is a time for a lot of creatives to do so.
Thank you for sharing that and how it's us always choosing that timing. Mia, tell me a little bit more what your object is and why that has inspired you to rethink about the career and the industry you're in as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think my object, it comes with a pretty long-winded explanation. I'm going to try to shorten as much as possible. But basically what I brought was a necklace that I got from a Maasai tribe when I visited Tanzania to volunteer there. And so for me, that trip was kind of the starting point of my entrepreneurship journey, in that when I got back home, a friend of mine actually invited me to join this entrepreneurship competition. And so when we were brainstorming ideas, like one of the experiences that I brought up of watching people struggle to access like drinking water while I was in Tanzania, that was kind of the basis for the product that we came up with, which was like a bike basically that filters water as you travel. And so that project itself didn't make it very far, but like it was kind of the starting point again for me to realize that entrepreneurship is something that I can really use to help fix like problems that I see in my life, whether it be in Tanzania or like just in day-to-day life. And so that's why I brought this object, really to showcase like where my journey started.
Thank you for sharing that, and the reminder that there's a lot of stories behind every object that inspires us. And, you know, we're seeing some response in the chat room. Thank you, Kathleen, Chen, and then Jennifer McCune also responding. We got a question from Kathleen. I want to bring it to see who's an innovator would like to answer this question. As an innovator, how will you keep yourself and your peers accountable in terms of ethics and social impact? I feel like many of us would resonate. Would love to hear who would like to speak on that. If you want to raise your hand, and we'd love to hear from you. So yes, Kendi.
So I will definitely go ahead and speak about that, because I'm surrounded by music and other art educators on a daily basis. And I think one of the most prevalent things that we're all talking about and trying to keep an eye on each other and keep having conversations about is the ethics in music education, more specifically the American music history. As we've all go through the Black Lives Matter movement right now, I think it's brought up a lot of conversations as to, are we teaching our children and our students music that would technically be unethical or traumatic to some students? And so that is conversation that we're all having, and we're trying to educate ourselves and try to figure out how can we be better educators and how can we keep advocating for music education and other arts education programs.
Yes, I definitely agree with Candy. And especially right now is a time when we should all get involved and we all have our own individual parts. Something that I personally try to do is give out leadership positions and really delegate the responsibility. In the chapter that I started at Emerson for menstrual advocacy, inside of that group, something that I always wanted to do was to add leaders and to create maybe little committees and have something, a group of people that were specifically devoted to one project. And I think that that just ignited the innovation in each and every person. So that way they could feel like, you know, they are doing something and they're also in charge of creating, of having their own kind of innovation be voiced.
That's awesome. And I think for me personally, like, I guess just like, how do you get other people around you to kind of have this like social impact mindset? And to be honest, I think it's not necessarily like for me in my personal like journey, I guess it's not necessarily like just educating other people or teaching other people about social impact, but it's more of just like, if you model that behavior, like people naturally gravitate that. If you like are that impactful person that you say other people should be, people naturally catch on and people naturally want to become like that. So I feel like it's really just like leading through example. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what all of the people before me have said. I think something that I do in my leadership roles and my innovation is that I try to be the person who brings up the conversation about how can we branch out and help other people who maybe aren't getting these benefits for whatever we're doing. And I think leading by example and making that a priority for yourself is the biggest thing that way you can teach other people to prioritize that and to provide a strong impact in that field.
Thank you all for sharing that. And Kathleen, I hope we got some answers for you. Lots of great nuggets of reminder and perspective that there's really no one way, but being mindful of all these different pathways, we need to have that awareness on that. You know, I'm curious at the same time, one of the opportunity of us having all of you is just being transparent and talk about also the challenges. And one of the things that I've asked before in the prep was, you know, I'm sure there's moments where we feel misunderstood. I feel like I'm misunderstood still at times when I go to places and I still look younger than my age group and I go to places. And so as a young innovator, I'm genuinely curious, you know, what are things that you wish, you know, other generations understood about where you are, what your generation is thinking and innovating? And I know we have some folks who's already wanting to share, so we'd love to hear from Samson first and a few others.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the times people, especially in the older generations, seem to forget that experience and innovation are not synonymous. Like not equal or anything. You can be innovative and you can have zero experience in something. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean, and you have no experience doesn't mean that it is invalid. Because someone could be like, hey, I think we should apply this to the NASA spaceship. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And then they find out that it's completely right. See, like anything can be spontaneous and correct. Just a certain level of creativity and critical thinking can be the difference between a good idea and a bad idea. And experience doesn't totally make the difference that the older generation seem to think that it does.
I'd also like to add that for young innovators, you don't have to be, you know, the highest rank in your class. You don't have to be known. You're never too small to make a difference, to make an invention, or to stand up for what you believe in. So always remember that you can achieve and you can invent whatever you set your mind to, and no one is too big or too small to do anything in life.
And I also think it's important to understand that our generation isn't necessarily addicted to technology and addicted to making, but rather we're addicted to striving for change and wanting to make things better than they already are.
Thank you so much. That was so good. I wanted to say that our generation is very different, and like the things, I feel like we're more socially conscious, we're more aware, whether it be our emotions, we're more expressive than the older generation. So I think that sometimes other folks may see that we may be too like in our feelings or whatnot, but I think that our generation is a lot more aware and a lot more considerate of other voices.
Thank you for sharing that, which really alludes to the opportunity and the challenges of thinking through that, hey, like we have 4 or 5 generation working in the workplace, the way we engage with technology and think about careers have changed significantly, which includes innovation. Sarah, I know you have some aspects that you want to add as well. We'd love to hear from you.
I didn't have any like things to add. I was just saying that all of those points that were made were really, really great. And I think that they very much needed to be said and to be heard by other people.
Thank you for sharing that. So to build on though, at the same time, I'm sure there's other things that you wish your other young innovators of your age group understood or talked more about. Tell me a little bit more what comes to mind. And I know in our pre-conversation, there were already a lot of topics that came out. What are things that you wish, you know, your other classmates or colleagues understood so that they can be more innovative that you want to share with them? And we'd love to hear who wants to start. Yes, Joshua, if you want to start, and then we'll check in with the others.
Awesome. Thank you. I think one of the biggest things that I learned in like my entrepreneur journey is that you really can't wait for the stars to align before you start doing something. Like when I went into high school, I had this mindset where like, if I ever want to start a business, if I ever want to start something like Innovate, you know, I want to have a PhD first. I want to get like, you know, all the I need to have in-depth knowledge of the science. I need to be like, you know, the place I need to be socially in order to start a company. But then I realized that if I continue to wait, if I just wait for the stars to align that way, they're really never going to align. So I think a lot of times it's just about getting started and doing things and like just learning. Like it's always possible, and you can always shorten that. I like to really think back to when like Elon Musk, like he built like the SpaceX rockets, right? He literally just read 2 astrophysics books and he kind of designed the whole SpaceX rocket. So it's just really anything is possible.
Yeah, and just to add on to Josh, what I would really want other young innovators to know is that there's like so many opportunities out there. Just to name a couple, like for me, I know I did a lot of like high school entrepreneurship competitions, like the Diamond Challenge, the Conrad Challenge. But even in general, I think there's a lot lower barriers, I guess, in a lot of industries nowadays, especially with social media. You can like spread the word about what you're doing, and that becomes a lot easier. And I think when you're young, you honestly have less to lose and people are more understanding. I kind of touched on this earlier about failure, but like if you have a strong support network, it's okay to fall back on them. And really, I think the most important thing, like what Josh was saying, is just to get started and seek those opportunities out for yourself.
And to kind of tie in with social media, I like to tell my fellow peers that it's okay to have and be doing work behind the scenes, that we don't have to be posting about it all the time. And just because we're not posting about it doesn't mean we're not working. And I think that's something I'm also reminding myself as I'm saying this out loud as an active social media user, that just because we're doing something, behind the scenes doesn't mean it's not gonna go unseen one day.
Definitely agree with Saren. And I think that kind of going off of that point as well, what I would also say is, you know, as youth innovators and the advantages that we have pointed out, kind of coming up with these ideas and the initial shock factor of, wow, so young and such a great idea. I think at the same time, we need to still be able to do our research and know what we are talking about. Especially in an age when everybody is kind of posting about something, and it can be easy to just be like, hey, like we need to help people. And it's like, give me the numbers, give me the statistics. Like tell me some information that can actually make me think, oh, this person knows what they are talking about.
Love all the insights, and we are also seeing appreciation in the chat. Jennifer just adding again that you guys are so wise. We weren't so innovative and entrepreneur when we were young. I love that the generation is much more excited about the difference in trying new things, and I would echo that. I mean, I don't think I thought about entrepreneurship innovation when I was in your shoes. I think I only thought about politics or career path of just one thing, which again, why I loved when I asked to rethink about career, you had already something that you wanted to share. And you know, Rasha, just to build on that last comment about making sure that we actually have the quality, that's something that we talk a lot about in every episode. And I'll be curious to hear, what are ways that you hone your craft, right? Like, I mean, it's one thing to say, just be around good people, innovate, be courageous. Like, tell me again, going back to Siren's point about behind the scene, like, okay, if we had to unveil your hardworking 24-hour, what actual cycle look like, what's, you think, the secret of like what helped your craft where you are so far in your quality of what you provide? That is probably a reflection of your hard work that other people probably don't know. We'd love to hear who's willing to share. If you want to raise your hand and we'll start from there. Who would like to share? Because I know you all work hard. Yes, Candy.
So I think for me, both my success and my failures have always gone back to how well I've gotten to know somebody. And I say this because in my industry, you have to get to know people. You have to understand what their challenges and their successes are in order to help them. And having the ability to go beyond what is expected of you, to dig just a little bit deeper, and to figure out what's going on behind the curtain of the stage. I think it's always really well appreciated when you take that time to get to know someone. And that has always been probably one of the best opportunities for me, is just to take a little extra time and get to know someone, because they may have more opportunities that you didn't even think about. Or you may have something creative and innovative that they didn't think about. And so just building bridges, keeping that line of communication open, I think is very important.
And Candy, I totally agree with you. I was actually going to talk about the importance of communication and just being patient on the timeline of innovation. When I innovate, it's mostly to try to help others the best I can. And I found that the best way I can innovate behind the scenes is to talk to these people, communicate them, and establish a network with them so they know that I'm not trying to help myself by making what I'm making. I want to make sure that we can all be there for each other and provide each other solutions.
Yes, y'all just take the words out of my mouth. So good. Just piggyback on the previous speakers. I definitely agree. I think trying to add value first to other people versus what can I get out. I feel like our generation is not the generation with the sketchy ads, infomercials, trying to get people money or quick fixes. We're actually adding like real value. So I think just focusing on giving versus getting is really important for innovators behind the curtain.
Yes, I totally agree with what everyone has said. Also, you guys took the words right out of my mouth. I think that for me, I work and I innovate in a group. And like everyone has said before, I think it's really important that collaboration is one of the number one things that you can focus on. You need to be able to work well with others. And also, I think for me, I love to learn about people and work with people. And I think that trait and being curious about their life experiences and just their morals, their interests, has also made me a better leader and also a better team member.
And I guess lastly, I kind of want to tie this back to what Arasha was saying earlier about the importance of research. I think something that really helps people improve over time is just building a solid knowledge base. And I think given everything happening with COVID, etc., it can be really disheartening at times, but there's also a lot of opportunities and people have more time to take online courses through Coursera. I know I've been taking a couple like that. And it's really a chance to kind of build a more solid knowledge base. And another thing that I think is really important on top of the soft skills that Abby was talking about is just like being willing to reach out, kind of going back to the whole bridges thing, and do like interdisciplinary collaboration, because I think that's something that's super important in the 21st century, is like being willing to reach out across different disciplines and different fields.
Thank you for all sharing that, and a reminder that all of this takes time and intention. So might as well have fun with it, right? I mean, it's never overnight. Going back to many of your points, that communication, giving back first, collaboration, as Candy has highlighted. I am so excited and appreciative. And I think the next thing that rings to my head is like, okay, I get it, folks. Like, you all seem to work hard. That's cool. But like, tell me then practically, what is the skill? If I have to just write down the specific skills, like, where do I start? What actually helps me innovate? Like, you all seem to have figured out like, what is like the quick book? So Samson, I would love to start with you and hear from you folks.
For me, it was a development of my mathematical skills, actually, because prior to that, I was thinking a lot smaller. Like my picture of the world was much more linear. I was like, oh, I'll go into this field, do this, and kind of grow old with that. And then the summer before my sophomore year, I actually taught myself A, B, and BC calculus. And I was like, okay, so with this newfound knowledge that I just, with my own like drive, I came up with this way to help myself. I can teach myself more things. I can use that knowledge and innovate and help myself. So it was like the skills itself aren't helping me innovate, but the idea of helping myself to develop more skills is what helped me innovate.
So the way that I kind of approach this is like a three-parter. If we really are looking for, what are those skills that I need? What are those strengths? And it sort of goes in a step-by-step basis, which is kind of how I choose to remember it as well. And so the first step is, if you know what you're talking about, then have the confidence to preach it. And I think it leads directly into this idea of being open-minded as well. Because once you're speaking about it and once you're talking about it and advocating for it, you also have to be at the same time open to a new perspective. Normalize being presented with new information and thinking, oh, that's a better point. And finally, resilience. If after hearing that, you can think, oh, actually, no, I'm still right, then stick to it. I think Samson mentioned earlier, like, you're gonna get a lot of no's, but sticking with the yes and saying, no, this is why I'm going to stand my ground is a power move.
That was incredible. But just to kind of put it on a more personal level for me, I think communication is key. Learning how to speak to professionals and just people on your same level as well. And then also learning how to adapt to quick paced obstacles that you're kind of thrown at. So definitely those two are hot topics.
And to kind of add on to communication, I like to say my skill of communication with myself. Positive way, you can say reflection. Negative way, you can say overthinking. But that has helped me kind of think about how, like, what is considered normal, but then reflecting back into what is true to myself and my purpose. And naturally, what comes out of me will be different from everybody else, right? Because we are all unique in our own ways. So that is definitely the number one skill that's helped me create.
Yeah, so I think there are three main skills. So obviously my field is like science and computer science. So I know a lot of that and I know how to code in a lot of different languages. But more importantly, I think skills that have really helped me throughout my entire life has been learning how to write and learning how to talk. So like public speaking, and also how to phrase your arguments both in words and in speech to get other people to listen to you, like really, really listen and genuinely hear your ideas, I think is super important.
Oh, so many great points from everyone. And a reminder again that it is a mix of, I think, hardcore skills versus soft skills, which I think is really critical, connecting back to the word choice of self-awareness. I hope everyone who is tuning in is being reminded, you're taking notes and reminding yourself how you want to take the time now to hone. So we got a question here also from the chat. Aggie T, thank you very much. So the question is, what advice do you have for young innovators who have ideas but don't know what to do with it or how to take it to the next level? I know, Joshua, actually, you work with a lot of that audience too. We'll be curious if you have insights on that first, and we'd love to hear if anyone else.
Yeah, I think honestly, like may seem really obvious, but it's a step that a lot of people actually don't seem to take, but it's really just asking for help. When I first started entrepreneurship, right, my first mentor like taught me about the concept of this advisory board, and that has really kind of guided me throughout my entrepreneurship journey, right? Like, you not only do they give you advice and everything, but because you're so young, that's where you draw the experience and the credibility from, when you have this established advisory board that can kind of guide you on where to grow. So I think asking for help, asking people to join your advisory board, whether it's for your business or even just as a mentor for your personal life, I think that's really important. And in terms of like how you can find these mentors, really just like cold calling, cold emailing, cold LinkedIning, if that's a thing. But really just taking that step out there and putting yourself out there so that other people can reach you.
I definitely want to echo that. I think that mentors are incredibly important, and they can be kind of that help, not only because you're connecting and expanding your network, but they can also outline the next steps. One time somebody told me that if you want to know what you're doing, reach out to somebody who has the job that you want and say, how did you get there? So figuring out those steps and kind of saying, I have a passion and I want to apply it, a simple Google search and say, organizations that support this cause, emailing them and saying, how can I help? What can I do? Can I do something to help with the cause? And eventually you'll learn from there and then expand and start your own organization or begin a new project. And you just begin to grow and grow from there. And just the simple act of reaching out is incredibly empowering, because you think, that's something that I did. If I hadn't reached out, I wouldn't have this opportunity.
And to add on to that, it's so important not only to reach out, but to reach out to people that you already know. Even in your everyday life, you probably encounter a lot of people that have hidden talents and skills that you haven't even observed. So by talking to them, talking to professors, you don't realize how big your network actually is until you engage with your network and indulge in what they're really passionate about.
So many great nuggets of insight. We're seeing more questions coming up. And again, thank you for the reminder that it's taking the proactive step to building those relationships, which is so critical. Jennifer added another question. And thank you again, Aggie and Jennifer, for asking the mentor and advice question on that. So Jennifer asked another question. What social media tools are you using to connect with people and innovate, and how? I agree. I feel like sometimes among quote adults, like we talk about this, like, oh, we can't figure out how I'm a millennial too, but like, oh, we can't figure out how Gen Z and millennials use social media. There's like always whole webinars on that topic. So I'm curious, like, how are you guys actually using? Do you have a preference, or is there a social media that you don't like to use? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what tool you use to connect. If anyone would like to share, who would like to start that? What social media tools are you using to connect with people and innovate, and how? Yes, Siri.
I know personally for me and a lot of my friends, we use Instagram as our business card. And when we connect with people, it's like, oh, hey, what's your Instagram? And then we get linked there. And rather than like a physical business card. And I know we use LinkedIn, but personally for me, I guess it's different from every industry. At least with like the entertainment industry, I know people definitely use YouTube and Instagram as a main form of interaction. Like I know I reached out to my current mentor through Instagram. I just slid into her DMs and I just asked her if I can ask her for a Zoom coffee, and she said yes, and that's how the connection happened. So definitely Instagram.
That's such a great point and a reminder that, again, it's action taking. I mean, if she thought about it but didn't take action, it would not have happened. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to add on that point? Yes, please.
Throughout all social media platforms, I love joining groups. Like on LinkedIn, I'm in a few groups. On Facebook, I'm in some different groups and communities. And that's really awesome, because if you're too shy to ask something, there's going to be other people who are wondering the same question that you want to ask. So it's great to establish a community through social media.
Thank you for sharing that, and a reminder that, again, why having communities like this and spaces is important. That being said, I want to kind of go back to the gears of, we talked about all the opportunities, what it means to be a young innovator, how you can find mentors, but let's be honest, there's probably challenges too. I mean, we talked about being misunderstood and how you wish other generations understood, or even among your colleagues and classmates. But tell me a little bit more. What do you feel that the world needs to understand more about challenges that young innovators face today that we should be understanding and that you want to share? Anyone like to share on that? Yes, please, Mia.
I think one thing, like one challenge that I'm still kind of learning how to overcome is learning to take criticism and like when to listen to that criticism, like when to recognize that it's constructive versus when to recognize that it's just someone, like a doubter that's just trying to tear you down. And I think it's a pretty tight balance between the two that you have to like learn to recognize over time.
Yeah, I will definitely agree with that with Mia. I think one of the challenges that I have faced and I still currently faced is that as a young innovator, you're questioned and scrutinized even more. And I will say when I've encountered people who are more apprehensive, it's more so not because of yourself, but more so their own insecurities. And that has been something that's been very eye-opening to me because that's helped me figure out how to communicate a little bit better along those issues. And I lost my train of thought for a second there. So if anybody else wants to jump in.
Yes, I can jump in while Candy tries to get back on track. I would say a challenge that I've personally faced can be sometimes like flexibility and kind of adapting. I think we've all learned in the past few months how uncertainty has really treated us. But I'm personally somebody that does love to stick to a plan, and I'm sure innovators out there, set up a structure and kind of go into a meeting knowing what they want. And at some point, I think being able to be adaptable, that's important. If you are saying, I think this project would work because of this, this, and this, you have to kind of be open to the idea of them saying, well, we've already tried that. So you kind of have to think like, okay, what if we added this part? Or what if we did this? And presenting them with options, I think, not only helps to expand your own mindset, but it also comes off as being like, well, I've really thought this through. It's not like this will only work if everything falls into place.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I think flexibility among all industries is something that is definitely a skill that you need. And I think another burden that we tend to face, and people don't really think about it, is that we are an information age. Everybody from the older generations are like, you guys have it so easy. You guys have access to information right at your fingertips. And that can actually be a bit of a burden because we're expected to know so much more, I think. And one of the things that I hope we get to see, and I think we are starting to see it, is that we're starting to go from an information age to a conceptual age, where we take all of this information and we can conceptualize it a little bit better in order to be innovative.
And Candy, kind of adding on to that, but kind of contradicting with the idea of an information is, I think with being the age that we are, when we do seek out mentors or seek out information and they tell us that we can't do it, or that it's not possible. I know I personally had to be like, oh, is it not possible? Because I look up to this mentor and they have done great things and they're telling me that that's not realistic. And I had hosted a songwriting retreat in the middle of the mountains in Spain during my grad program. And my director flat out told me, you can't do this. And there was a moment of doubt, but then I was like, well, I decided to go back to my overthinking and journaling and stick true to my purpose, and it worked. So I think as young innovators, it's easy to kind of question yourself, especially when the advice comes from someone who seems more informed. But at that moment, I think it's really important to go back to your purpose and be like, okay, they're on their journey and they're on my journey. I know they want the best for me, but I got to stick true to my purpose?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest challenges were kind of learning how to deal with mistakes and failures that I made, not in like my innovation, but also just as in myself as a whole, whether it's like in classes, in clubs, things like that. I think that I struggled with that for a really long time. And I feel like I've only kind of discovered more about that now. So yeah, I think that's something really important that everyone goes through and learns from.
And it's a reminder that, again, for those who are watching and thinking about no matter what your age or background or interest is, all of these are things that we can continue to do more of, and think about what are the things that we make more space and do less of the other things, because it's going to take time, and recognizing that finding those allies, finding those courage and mindset is really critical. We're seeing some reminder again. Jennifer also added again, I love when somebody tells me I can't. It's a great challenge to show them that I can. And so resonating very much with what all of you have shared. And believe it or not, when we're having fun, time flies. We are almost at the last mark. And thank you all again for joining us live. Again, if you still have questions, let us know. But some of the wrap-up questions that I do have is that, frankly, there's a lot that we can remember, but I wonder, in fact, what is the thing that helps you stay grounded? And so we'd love to hear who would like to share insight into that as we think about, well, how you navigate. What helps you stay grounded? But all these shiny objects that I know you can innovate, do, and learn, what actually helps you stay grounded and be who you are as an innovator and a person? Who would like to share? Yes, please.
So for me, what helps me stay grounded is ultimately the goal that I can be my own person. I want to grow up to become somebody who thinks for myself, works for myself, does things that I'm not being like controlled or like told what to do by some other boss who doesn't agree with my view. Like Saren said, like, I think I want to be able to be the person who goes in and says, is this a good idea? Should I consult someone? No, this is a good idea. I'm consulting myself, right? Like going about thinking that the only person you should be asking for like advice, or not advice, but for permission when it comes to making a great idea is yourself. And ultimately, just the idea that I shouldn't be controlled, I should be able to think freely, is just the most important thing to me in maintaining my idea as an innovator and not getting lost on some other shiny thing, as you mentioned.
That was great. And for me personally, what helps me stay grounded is like the one simple phrase, I don't know. And the significance it has on my life maybe is that, like, as an entrepreneur, right, when you pitch someone or when someone asks you questions, you're expected to know everything. You're expected to have everything thought out, I suppose. But kind of what keeps me grounded and what keeps me going sometimes is just that it's okay if you miss it. It's okay if you say like, hey, I don't know, but that's an area that we will investigate or something like that. I just think that like being genuine and authentic like that, and just saying it's okay to not know or to not have something thought out yet is totally fine.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to kind of piggyback off of that as well, along the same lines of what Joshua said in the and that's okay kind of mentality. I think this connects to this overarching idea that we've been kind of discussing in self-awareness and mindfulness. Because personally, for me, what keeps me grounded is celebrating the little achievements along the way. And that can be reaching out, finding a mentor, connecting to your already network, tuning into a webinar and learning about other people's experiences, whatever it might be. I think after you do something, taking a step back and just being like, well done, I did that, and I can do the next thing. Again, it kind of goes into that idea of liberating yourself and feeling like no matter your age, no matter your color, no matter whatever circumstances you are in, if you have the passion, you can go out and take that next step.
What keeps me grounded is my mindfulness and my spirituality. Also, journaling and self-reflection is like it keeps me grounded.
Thank you all for sharing that. And a reminder that it's really important to make space to be grounded and take the time to get to know what it is. So to build on that, as we reflect, I know there was a lot of great insights. Thank you all again who joined us live, and also those who are going to rewatch again, because that's the beauty of keeping this on live stream on YouTube. But I'm curious to hear, one question I want to ask back to all our innovators here is, this is something that I often do at the end of the show. And so people often, they might cheat and they might just go to the very end because they know I asked this question, which is, what is the final, if everyone forgets everything? What is like the one final advice that you want to share with our innovators, whether they are entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, students, or whatever that background is, who happens to perhaps be a student and a young innovator? What advice would you want them, what advice would you want to share with them, and how they find the courage to do so? So would love to maybe take a moment to reflect and maybe go in the order that we talked about last time. So again, what's the final piece of advice that you'll love to share? And we'd love to start with Candy.
So I'm gonna quote Brene Brown a little bit because I did a lot of reading and research on leadership, especially in the arts. And it's to be vulnerable and to be courageous. And you wouldn't think that those two things go together, but they do. So don't be afraid. That's my advice.
For me, I guess I would kind of use an analogy to explain my piece of advice. Like we're working on this like sound wave fire extinguisher, right? So I would say, don't let anyone else's sound extinguish your fire. And what that means is like, right, you have so many expectations, you have so many voices like in the world telling you can or you can't. But don't let that get to your passion or the things that you love most. Don't let that get to you, I guess.
So my advice would be, know your worth and don't forget about your desire and your passion for what you started.
And to add on that, my advice is to take your time and don't be afraid to make your project or your passion a gradual process.
My advice would be to know your why you want to innovate, why you want to make a difference, and knowing why you want to do it will motivate you that much more to get it done.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to not be afraid to try new things. I promise everything really comes with practice. And you really have to learn to go with the flow while staying true to yourself, which I know can be a really hard balance sometimes. And at times like that, I really think it's okay to rely on other people too. Don't try to do everything yourself. Whew, there's a lot of thunder in the background. Don't try to do everything yourself, because I truly think interdisciplinary collaboration is the future.
I think one advice from me would be walk with grace and truth.
Find a mentor in everything that you do, whether it be your career, your dating life, your school. Have people that support you, that keep you accountable, and that love you.
Every opportunity is an opportunity. Everything that you encounter, go for it. Answer the email, pick up the phone and call somebody, go on that Zoom coffee date, slide into those DMs, like do what you need to do and take that opportunity.
My advice is to stay hungry and always be curious and open to learning things.
And with that being said, thank you all very much for joining us live. We hope you got a chance to be inspired, innovate, and recognize how you make space to be innovative. Another great round of applause again for our young innovators for sharing their wisdom and insights. We hope you enjoyed it. And again, since you can rewatch this, you are welcome to do so. So again, my name is Monica Kang. I'm the host for Innovation Unscripted and founder of InnovatorsBox. We're so glad we could celebrate our young innovators' voices. For this particular group, we are able to actually dive a little bit deeper. And so Arasha would be doing an in-depth interview with them in the next couple of days. And so stay tuned, check out for the videos that we will be sharing in 2 weeks, because you're going to hear more about their stories. And so with that being said, thank you all for joining us live, and we will see you another time. See you.